It's about play. It's about trying things out, being a kid and everything, right? It's not about trying to grow up and not daring to do things anymore. Putting delays on stuff, thinking this can turn out good, but I'm just gonna see what happens. The mistakes make the cool things in the studio, right? And the mistakes happen from being a kid, I guess.
Kolter is one of the most influential producers in house music today, and we are happy to have him exclusively on the Dojo podcast.
And there's always something new. You could do a million tracks and there's still something new to explore with every track. The one thing that has always kept me striving is to
Our next guest on the Dojo podcast needs no introduction. We have one of my friends and one of the artists that I admire most in this industry as a producer and as a DJ, the incredible Kolter.
What's up, man?
Johannes, welcome to the podcast. Really been looking forward to having this conversation with you. Just like love how spontaneously we made this happen.
Yeah, from yesterday, right?
Yes, yeah, we spoke yesterday and today we're on the podcast. So, like the best time to do things is always right now. That's my feeling.
True.
So, I'm going to start diving right in because we have roughly just over an hour and I want to get stuck into these questions that are on everybody's mind about you. I would like to go back to the beginning because I would like to find out who you are as an artist and how you basically got started in electronic music. Take me back. How did you get into electronic music and what was your musical journey?
Well, I guess it's not really a super exciting one or something because I think like all my love for electronic music like mainly was by just digging through the internet, going to YouTube back in the days and discovering house music online more as discovering it actually live. I was super into like rock, alternative rock, all these kind of things. And then at some point, I wanted to broaden a little bit my musical taste or whatever you want to call it, and just dug through YouTube, found some nice music in that direction, and just went on from there. There wasn't this one friend who showed me a mixtape or something from Fabric or something. It was the most boring shit ever, man.
Well, I don't think it's boring because it kind of shows a curiosity and wanting to discover for yourself. Many people, as you say, do get introductions by older siblings or friends. Like myself, my brother was the person that introduced me to house music and electronic music. But this kind of digging and like looking on YouTube, at what age are we talking about here?
Pretty late, I think, like 22, 23. It was just before I went to uni, down in South Germany. I was, as I said, I was coming from rock, so I feel like the transition with most of the people is when they are going from heavy metal or rock into like dubstep or drum and bass, because I feel there are a lot of similarities there in terms of like the energy of the tracks. And then, some people progress more into like the heavy techno stuff or into house or something. But I feel like a lot of journeys that I've catched up from people, they went through kind of the same kind of way, And then, as soon as I discovered Beatport, I kind of just downloaded the top 10 like everybody does in the beginning, I guess,
Right.
I got myself the shittiest MIDI controller on earth. Got myself the test version of Tractor, I think it is.
Right.
And just did some mixtapes with the sync button on. Yeah.
If you guys are enjoying this podcast and this conversation with Johannes, please take a moment to subscribe and like. It really helps the podcast. This is something that I've meant to say every single time that we record a podcast, and I always forget. And we never do this. So this time, I'm just asking you, please support this podcast by following us on dojomusic.net. Come and check out our platform, like this podcast, and leave a comment below if you agree or disagree with anything me and Johannes have said. Okay, so how, like, what was the sort of transition to like starting to digging into house music on YouTube, then going on Beatport, and then actually wanting to DJ yourself. Was this something that happened because you went to a couple of parties, or like did going to raves and parties come at a later point?
It's hard to say. I mean, I've started doing parties when I was going to uni with a friend of mine called Pascal, and I mean, there were some nights where I saw that, for example, he was playing some house tunes in a student night. You know,
Right.
like the whole night was filled with different kind of DJs, and they would play everything poppy, everything that's in the charts, and then every once in a while there would be a DJ or something who plays a little bit of house music, and I was going like, yeah, this is, I don't know, I really like this kind of stuff. You
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
I went on to talk to them, you know, asking them, yeah, what's this kind of music, and one of them being Pascal, you know, one of my best friends today, who I met at the uni, and who I'm throwing the hoof parties with now.
Right. So you guys
But
still doing parties now?
we are still doing parties now. Yeah, yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
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 So that love lasted. um, but yeah, that was so a little bit the beginning, you know. But I've already heard like house music on the internet before, on YouTube, you know, like
Right.
what was it, like Darius Sarosian or something, or Josh Butler, you know. Um, those were the kind of grooves where I was thinking, yeah, man, this is some proper groove, you know, like
Yeah, yeah, awesome.
I
And then the DJing side of things, you just mentioned you got yourself a cheap MIDI controller and like tractor, and like I love that because sometimes I talk to people who want to get started with DJing, and they're just like, oh, the equipment is like so expensive and whatnot. And it's like, well, nobody starts out on CDJ 3000s and a 6 channel mixer, you know.
most of the time not,
Yeah, yeah.
I guess.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't even know many DJs that have a setup at home that because the setup now costs like 10 grand.
yeah, it's
Like,
crazy, man.
yeah, yeah. So like, he told me about the whole DJing experience a little bit. So now you start diving into like downloading tunes on Beatport, you're starting to mix at home. Get me to the point where you started to feel like, this is maybe something that I could do, like, or like I could pursue, you know?
Hmm. Well, I've I need to dive in a little bit on the to the side or deeper with it, because at the same time that I was just explaining with the getting the Numark Omni controller, it was called the MIDI controller. I had a friend living next to me in my hometown who was a vinyl DJ
Right.
as well. And yeah, one day, I think it was after Christmas or at New Year's or something, we were hanging out at his place, and he showed me a little bit, you know, this is kind of like a proper DJ setup and everything. And he was asking me, because he saw that I was getting this Numark Omni Control thing. He asked like, okay, can you mix two tunes with this? And I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I don't know, man. It's like two vinyls or something. And I was horribly failing at it, you know. But there I was going like, okay, you do your thing. I just use the Omni control thing because it put me off so much, you know, because you know, the feeling you get from just being able to blend two tunes together, just any tunes you want, even if it was with the sync button on or off, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, but you get the feeling of blending your favorite
Yeah.
tracks together. I mean,
And that's the fun part, right? When you're
that's the
starting
fun
out,
part,
like,
right? And if
yeah,
it's
yeah,
and if I'm missing out on this point in the beginning, I don't know if I would have pursued the way, if I would have went any further with it, you know, because
yeah,
I've had both experiences now. You know, the friend was showing me the proper way to do it, obviously, right? He wasn't making fun of me or something to that I was having the MIDI controller or something. He just said, "Yeah, this is what I've been doing or what we have been doing," you know, like, and I said, "Okay, that's good for you, but it's right now it's not for me, obviously, you know." So I think like if people tell you what's the proper way to start mixing and everything, I think it's not vinyl.
I really love that. Because I started on vinyl personally, but mainly because there wasn't anything else around at the time when I started. Like when I started, like they just started out with like very bad DJ controllers, like CDs. Actually, it
Yeah.
was CD decks, and they were like kind of rack mounted, and they had like two little jog wheels on front, and those
Mm.
were like the CD decks that you would find in clubs, and they
Yeah.
were absolutely terrible. And then eventually Pioneer came out with the first CDJ, and that sort of changed the game for everybody. But yeah, it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what you start on as long as you've got passion for the music. And I always say that, like, at the end of the day, like, you have these people who are like really hardcore. I don't want to use a strong term like calling them vinyl Nazis or something like that, but like very strong vinyl fans or advocates, and they're
Yeah,
like,
but
well, I'm
being a big fan doesn't mean you're a Nazi about it, I guess,
yes, no, like,
because that's
it's
what I
the
was
wrong
trying
word,
to not
Garrett.
say
Yeah.
about my friend. He wasn't being like a Nazi about like, okay, you need to do this way
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
He was just saying like, try it with this or something, So
I mean,
he
your
wasn't
your friend was
it.
your friend was pretty cool in that respect, in that regard.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying is, there is some people who basically dismiss anybody that hasn't learned on vinyl as not a true DJ, which I think is
Yeah.
completely wrong, because I think the skill of DJing comes mostly from track selection and the technique of how you deliver your mixes and the track selection. Is you have a wide variety of tools to do that these days.
Hmm.
So then, like, this is the early days. Then now, like, I would kind of know, well, like, when did you really catch the bug where you like okay, like, this is something I want to do all of the time. I'm starting to progress to more professional equipment now. Like, was that something gradual? Was it when you started your parties? Like, how did you get into like becoming the expert that you are today?
Uh, the expert. Well, I don't know. It was like a super gradual thing, a super linear thing. There weren't really that many events or something where I said like, "Oh man, this is the thing I want to do for the rest of my life" or something. Hence why I only just quit my job like 2 years ago. So,
I know, which is
because
crazy.
I always felt like, okay, it's my hobby. I want it to stay my hobby. I had always the feel like, okay, if I'm gonna do this for a job, I have to do it, and then I don't want to do it anymore because it was almost my compensation thing to do for work or for things I don't want to do. Anyway, but how did you say it? Catch the bug?
Catch the
This
bug, yeah. When did you
catch
get
the bug.
infected
Okay,
by
where
get
did I get
infected by the
infected?
virus? Yeah, where did you catch the
Yeah,
bug? Yeah.
I think I don't want to always say Josh Butler, but uh,
Yes.
back in the early days, I don't know, there were some grooves about the tracks that he's done, which always made me so enthusiastic about house music. And it's progressed to other artists as well. Who was it? Dale Howard or something. Like, I mean, back in the day, I wasn't caring too much anymore for the big musicality in the tracks. I was more trying to get the sound elements uh, mixture so that it grooves even more or something. I don't know how to explain it in a different way, but these were the moments which really made me stay at it because the one thing that is always kept me striving is to be able to make that perfect track with the perfect groove. And I know
Right.
I'm never going to make it in my life. Maybe other people think different of the tracks or whatever, but I know for me, it's about the journey that I set to myself of trying to get that perfect track. And I'm
Right.
not gonna do it in this life probably, but it's when I'm done with the track, I say, okay, was cool. But okay,
Well,
I'm
like,
gonna try to do it better with the next track or something.
I
Like
have
this is
dozens and dozens and dozens of your track on my hard drive, and I can tell you there's some in there which are, like, I mean, I'd never like to use the word perfect, because I also believe there is like no such thing. We try to get as close to perfect as possible, but you can never really attain it. But yeah, like, I mean, I have so much of your music, and I just absolutely love it. It's musical. It works amazing in the club, which brings me to the next subject, because we've already switched over into this, which is production. It's like, when did you first start dabbling in your production, and what was your entry point into that?
it kind of went simultaneously. I started with the DJing a little bit earlier, obviously, but I just want to be part of the mix I'm doing at some point.
Right.
I want to be able to do the same thing. I mean, this is how everyone starts, right? You say like, okay,
Right.
man, this got me. I want to do the same thing. You know, this is why you go into DJing, and this for me was the same reason why I wanted to go into production. I
Yeah.
wanted to have that. How do you say? Oh, how do you say Baustein? You
Building
know,
block.
to give people the same building blocks that I'm pulling from the internet. You know, like
Right.
to
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
part of this movement.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I totally get it. Like for me, it was the same. At some point, when you start DJing, you're like, like I have so much passion for this. I love doing this so much. I want to be part of this, and this is where like I went to Point Blank Music School. Did you ever go and do any courses, or did you ever get any education, or was this totally something that you did self motivated?
Most of the infos I got through YouTube. I mean, there's plenty of infos on the internet, but I've also bought a course on Fader Pro at some point. I think it was just one though, and also I in the almost in the very beginning as well. I tried to look over someone's shoulder, which I really admire musically. So I back in the day I wasn't making as much money as I'm doing now, obviously, especially in the student days. But I gathered some money. I collect how you say I saved some money to buy a flight and a production session in the UK.
Who did
I
who did you
I
who did you visit? Can you let
I
me in?
was SJ. He was called. He's called.
Okay.
He did do like some garagey house
Mm.
together with Nick Ostertag or something I think he's called, and Steve the whole Domino Effects crew. I don't know if you know these guys, but
No,
they
I
were
haven't heard of them. Yeah.
Low Stepper was on it, for
All
example,
right.
as
Okay. Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but there was like more than or it was 10 years ago or something. You know, they were doing quite all right, I would say. They were being booked in the Netherlands and everything, with the label as well. And I was a big fan of them, and especially his production style. So I saw I think that he was offering one-on-one sessions. So I said like, okay, obviously I need to do this. You know, I want to learn from him. Because I like his track so much and I like the simplicity in it as well and his structure and everything. So I gathered some money. I saved some money, which I saved by driving out strawberries.
Right. Okay.
Uh, that took a while, but I got some money down and then
Delivering
delivering.
strawberries.
Yeah, in the
Right.
morning.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
5 in the morning to the different stands from the
Okay.
farmer. Uh,
Right. Okay.
After I got the money together, I went over. I got myself a hotel in the shadiest area of in Leeds. And yeah, then I figured it out all out with him, you know, like to set the date and everything. So
Was this just like a weekend of
it was
one-on-ones
for
or?
date. It was for one day that we
Okay.
actually met up. So then I got there, and he said, "Oh man, I'm so sorry, man, but I'm having a fight with my girl. You can't come today."
And you're like, what?
and
I'm in a
I'm
hotel. I
like,
flew over.
yeah, my flight's going tomorrow, man. You can't do that. You can't do that.
And
I
then, like,
saved all this money.
did you get your session in the end, or
Yeah,
or
that
or?
yeah. Well, I said, yeah, okay, it's hard, man, you know. But I was there. I said like, okay, if can we do it tomorrow then or something? He said, yeah, sure, tomorrow is fine. I said, okay, fuck it, you know, like you know how much it is to rebook a flight. It's basically just buying another flight, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Like,
So I
it's
thought
you.
like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't have this money. I asked my parents like, can you borrow me some money? You know, it's this and this situation. So I need to reschedule my flight to
Okay, I
be over
love
for
that.
the session.
I love that. I want to unpack that a little bit because, like, I think this is really there's something valuable here and something to be learned, and especially for our audience. who are all also aspiring producers, and which is the notion of investing in yourself, right? And like taking a risk and doing something. I'm having a lot of conversations, obviously, like over dojo with people who are thinking about joining and educating themselves. And sometimes, we get these questions of like, how much does it cost? And like, obviously, like, I don't want to say that like cost is nothing and that you shouldn't think about cost. But at the same time, what I'm thinking is like, you are willing to fly to a different country, stay in a hotel for a night, for like a one-on-one session with somebody that you admired, and that would have been like a couple of €100, I assume, in terms of flights, hotel, staying there for another night, rebooking, and sometimes I have people, and we talk about like price point, and like a subscription to something like Sinfo, Dojo, Fader Pro, whatever platform it is. I'm not just want to plug my own platform here, but like just educating yourself, it's just like a couple of bucks. And people don't think twice about dropping $1,000 in Ibiza in 3 days of going on a bender, but they think like really hard whether they should invest €200 in educating themselves, and it's like I have always had the same kind of mindset of like that the learning never stops. And you know what? Even to this day now, I still buy courses, Went on Bernski's thing, like on Constant Sound Studios, and I bought a subscription for like a couple of months, and watched a bunch of videos and learned a lot because like,
Kepler's one, I think
yeah,
Orbit is also really good.
Kepler's is really good as well, and I really admire these producers. And it's just like, the learning doesn't stop. You know what I mean? Like, you should like invest in your education and in learning more. And I think even
Yeah, let
more
it be,
so,
let it be money, let it be time. It in the end,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. Of course, you need to invest, but if
yeah,
it's your
yeah,
passion, you're willing to, of course. So of course,
yeah.
people in the beginning want to see like what's the cost return thing. Let me tell you, the cost and return for my trip was absolutely fucking shit.
I can imagine. Well,
The
having
track we made wasn't even good or something,
yeah, yeah, but
like
I think still an important experience, though. I had some similar experiences as well.
but I got some samples which I from him, that he collected, that I still use to this day. So in a way, the return was there.
Now you've started producing now, and like I want to talk about like sort of early setup, and now know that you're quite prolific on using a bunch of instruments. I can see the synthesizers in the background. I know you love your old groove boxes, but is that like a recent thing, or like did you start investing in instruments and getting hardware like early on? What was the early setup for your first tracks like?
I started also really gradually. There wasn't this one time where I started to really invest in hardware since. I think I've got myself like a mini, like the Sub 37 or something, almost right in the beginning of my
Right,
production journey.
awesome little
Um,
synth.
yeah, it's cool, but I sold it again because I wasn't too happy with it. But I'm sure there are people who can really put it to really good use. But yeah, these synths, along with some others that I have here, I gathered since 10 years now. So I wouldn't call myself like the craziest nerd. No, not nerd, but gear slut. That's how you say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, gear slut,
But
that's right.
every once in a while I try to just get a new synth or something and just do a new track solely with this thing. See it as my daily limitation session. Like
Talk to me about that, the daily limitation session, because I think that's touching on something super interesting. What is your daily limitation session?
no, I was just this was the first time I ever used this word. I mean, it's important to have a limitation, as you know, as you've touched on with a lot of different people, and I think it's the most important one to be creative, obviously. So whenever I feel like okay, there's like an endless sea of possibilities out in this world, I get nothing done. So as soon as I say like okay, I'm gonna just use this Roland MC909 or the Yamaha RM1X that I have standing here. I'm just gonna do a track only with the sounds that I get from this thing. I'm instantly way more inspired than I would have if I just sat down and just see what happens.
I think this is so valuable, and like I also get lost when I look for too many things, and intentionally, but having intention to say it's like I'm only going to use those sounds is super super valuable. And like not everybody does that, like especially these days with, I think especially laptop producers have way too many choices, way too many choices.
Yeah, but
You
I've had the
like
same with the laptop, like
yeah.
it doesn't have to be the Yamaha or something. Just lately, I thought like, man, there are so good drum kits already in the latest Ableton version. I need to have a dive into these because also with other effects that the macros that they already put on there to
Yeah.
kind of enhance them and saturate them or something. You can do like your whole drum groove only with the drum racks from Ableton, and they sound so cool, man. It's
Yeah.
really also
Yeah.
this is kind of limitation you can set yourself in. This I only got the idea I got from a collaboration with Marcelo, I think it was or something, because
Yeah.
before that I was, to be honest, I never checked out the drum racks from Ableton because I thought they were cheap or something. Don't know
I've
why I
never
thought
checked
that
them
way.
out, but now that you're telling
Yeah.
me, I think I have to check them
Uh,
out as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I saw like on a collaboration project that I did with Marcelo, he used like a lot from the drum racks inside of Ableton. And I thought like, man, it sounds so crisp. I always wanted to do something like this as well. And he just got it from the drum racks in Ableton. I mean, I don't know why I thought they would be cheap because like Ableton is crazy good. I don't almost don't use any plugins anymore because Ableton has everything you need.
That's one of the things that I love about collaborating is that you always get new perspectives. People always work in ways that you find unexpected. Although you might be using the exact same tools, they do things differently. And
Yeah.
it's just so valuable to shake up the production process and to just see how other people work.
Yeah.
So like let's get a little bit into that. Like you are quite active as a collaborator. Like your collaborations with Chris Stussy as Stussco are quite legendary, and I have many of your tracks that you guys made together in my forever record box. The tracks that are getting played. Yeah, the tracks that are getting played like literally in every single set. You've just said that you've collaborated with Marcelo, who's another producer that I really admire for his sense of musicality. How did that come about? Let's talk about this latest collab with Marcelo.
So the first thing I knew from Marcelo was the release that he had on Full Amour's label. The Dear Future it was called. And this track got me hooked on this guy. I thought like, okay, man, who is this? I want to check him out. I sent it to Stassi as well. I thought like, okay, man, check this guy out. And Stassi said, yeah, man, I've been giving this guy a little bit of advice for some time now already, and he sent me like a link to one of his Instagram posts from like a few years back at Taushaven or something where Stassi was playing the track I was talking of, the Dear Future one. So I thought, okay, of course he's got his eye already on him, like I'm
of course I'm
late to the fucking party.
Stassi already knows. He already knows.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, it doesn't matter. I was hooked on Marine's tracks from there on his productions, and I wanted to sign something for Hoof. We did in the end as well, which is on our latest compilation now. But he's already also sent me like a bunch of other records. They were all really good, really sophisticated. I think he's
very
23
sophisticated.
23
yes.
or 24 years old.
Such a mature sound. Crazy.
Yeah, it's so good. Like really, and it's not overproduced. It's just the way how it should be, and I feel like there's 20 years of making beats knowledge already in his first tracks. If I would have had this, I don't know, like I don't know if you call it knowledge or something, but the way of thinking and
maturity.
Yeah, I don't like maturity. Maturity. I've touched on it before, I think, in some podcasts. I think maturity is the absolute wrong word for music.
Okay.
Because
okay,
I don't know music.
Yeah.
It's about play. It's about, trying things out, being a kid and everything, right? It's not about trying to grow up and not daring to do things
I
anymore,
like
right?
that actually. I like that. That's a
So,
very
so
good
what
perspective.
what does mature mean?
It
Like,
means serious, right? It means serious, and it
yeah,
means
why
it means yeah, yeah, yeah. Like no, I like that. Yeah,
are
creativity
you
is
not
about
serious
play.
before you matured?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that take. I think probably maturity is an easy word that you can throw around.
I know, I know, I know. And
But when
everyone can call it how they want it,
yeah, yeah.
It's just I just don't like the word. You can like it.
Yeah,
It's all right.
but I like your perspective on this because, like, you've touched on something important, which is that creativity is about play, and playfulness comes also from childishness and not being mature.
Yeah.
Um, and if you can, like, people always say that, like, if you can tap into playfulness, like
It's seeing what
creativity.
happens, and
Yeah.
letting it happen, and maturity is more like, okay, I've experienced something bad will come out, I'm not going to do it or something. I think these are the things which stand against each other, and that's why I don't like maturity as a good word to say your tracks blossom way more now or something.
No,
Anyway,
I really like that, and like what you just said now is, I think, something really important. Seeing what happens, like allowing the track to be what it wants to be. I always say,
yeah, to be
I
shit.
like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like
like putting delays on stuff and thinking like, okay, this I don't know if this can turn out good, but I'm just gonna see what happens. And the mistakes make the cool things in the studio, right? So, and the mistakes happen from being a kid, I guess. So
yeah, and like I agree with that a lot. I struggle with that sometimes because I will have like an idea in my head of what the track should be, and then when the track doesn't, like, quite often it doesn't turn out to be what I have in my head. And then, like, whenever I'm fighting against the vision that I have in my head, that's when creativity dies,
hmm.
right? Because you become frustrated and whatnot. But when you allow the track to just go in whatever direction it wants to be, and think like, no, it doesn't have to be this particular kind of track now. Like, yes, I've thrown in a pad now and it's becoming something a bit deeper or softer, whatever, but I'm feeling this right now,
Hmm.
rather than going with what is your idea that you have in your head, and going with a feeling is so much more important. But like, I think that can sometimes be really hard to let go of your preconceived notions of what you have in your head. How do you
Yeah,
deal with that?
exactly the same way that you just describe it. I most of the time also when I start making music, I want to copy something which I like. I mean, it was the initial factor which got me into producing. So I tried to make a George Butler track, for example. I start out, and then after a few minutes already, I know it's not going that direction, but I
Yeah.
I don't care, and I try to embrace the new direction it's becoming. So. Um, but then again, you don't really think too much anymore, right? This is the state of flow that you want to be in, and to not think about how am I going to finish this track. The best things. That's why you never remember the good tracks, because you they went.
They just happen.
They just happened. Yeah. So
They just happen.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that elusive flow state is something that, like, I wish I could tap into more often. It
Hmm.
can, like, it can sometimes be difficult for me. One thing I do know is the longer it takes me to make a track, the less feeling I will have for it.
Yeah.
And the feeling of whether it's any good or bad just completely disappears when anything goes on for too long a time.
That's why I never touch a track from yesterday, because I'm not there anymore.
Do you always finish every track within a day?
Yeah, I try to get everything uh, creative done in the day. Definitely. Now, being a dad, the time just is not the same as it used to be anymore. Obviously,
Right.
sometimes I need to make chunks of sessions, and I learn to cope with it and see the good in this as well. But
Okay.
I used to just do all the tracks in one session from start to finish.
That is
And
absolutely incredible. And like, I know very few producers who probably be capable of that or would do that. One thing that I notice is, like, like, I hit you up periodically, probably like once every sort of 5 to 6 months, and I says like, hey, have you got any new tracks for me? And usually then what happens is you will send me a playlist with like 150 tracks in it, or like 100 new tracks, and obviously some of them will be older ones that I already know, but there's always an insane amount of new music in there. And like, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I mean, like, I managed to do like whatever 15, 20 tracks a year, and like you'll that seems to be something that you do like in a month sometimes. How do you like, how did you get to this kind of insane productivity, insane kind of pace of finishing and pushing through? Like, does it take a lot of discipline for you to stay on one thing and actually finish it, or is it something that developed over time? Were you always that quick? How did you get to that stage where you increase your productivity to a level that you can finish tracks within a day?
Mm,
Because I think it's very
I've,
unusual. You might not think it's unusual because it's normal for you, but I think it's very unusual. Yeah.
I guess you just have to have fun with it, you know. And my dad was asking me yesterday because I told him like, yeah, I made a track today, I made a track yesterday, blah blah blah. And then he says like, but do you have fun anymore? Like, do you feel like, are you creative anymore if you do it like this many? Don't you think you have done it? And then I thought like, okay, he's right. I could ask myself this question, but then I thought like, okay, but I don't even have to like what I did in the end, you know, because it's kind of my part of the journey of trying to make the good track, you know. Uh, Maybe for other people it's a good track which I did on that day, and maybe it's growing on me as well at some point, and I liked it. But I see it more as a diary of
Yeah.
what I've like, what did I like on that date, on that day. Of obviously you always want to do something which you're in the mood for, you know. If you I'm not saying I make super sad tracks or something, you know, but sometimes I make more mellow, more harder tracks. And it also depends like on my experience on the weekend or something, you know. Like if there was this one track, of course, where I thought like, man, this like the pads in this were so cool, man, or the vocal really thought like was standing out. I want to, and then I say like I want to do something like this. I want to do a rhythm like this. I want to use pads this way as well. And then I'm in the on the Monday or something. I'm back from the weekend, and I want to just try to implement that element into the tracks. And there's always something new. You know, it's crazy, man. You could do a million tracks and there's still something new to explore with every track, you know. It's not like after some tracks you have done it all.
Yeah.
Maybe you've touched a little bit of Italo disco on a track or something, you know, but there are a million tracks and a million sounds to try and to try out or something. So it's not
I
like I
love
feel
that.
like I've done it at some point or something.
I love that. I guess like you're a very humble guy, so I know you don't like when you know when I you know people tell you like how amazing you are all the time and whatever. But like you know like I think your creativity and your productivity is pretty amazing, and I think what you just said is super important for young artists, because I think you have that playfulness where you like to explore, like, hey, I like to go into Italo today. I'm going to do breakbeat today, whatever. And it's not like you don't think about the next EP, right? You just think about
No,
having fun, and
never.
you think about having fun in the studio.
I never thought about where the music is gonna end up. Never. Never. I always struggled whenever I set myself this goal. When somebody from a label told me like, "Man, I would love to have you on the label. Can you make some music for me?" Never worked out. Never has been, and I'm never
You're like, I
gonna
have some
attach
tracks. I have
myself to
some
this thought.
tracks. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you
I know.
could
I like whenever I release stuff on the label, I send them my promo folder, and then they ask like, "Is
with
this one
150
taken?
tracks in it.
Is this
Yeah, yeah,
taken on?"
yeah.
I say, "No, you can have it." Blah blah blah. I don't think like, oh, okay, I need to have a fourth track for this EP. I need to make something more a B-side track or something. Bam. Pff, let me go away with this shit, you know? Like this puts my creativity down so much.
This is really important, Johannes. It's really important because you like, so like I used to take tutoring from a guy called Mike Monday. Have you ever heard of Mike Monday before?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
he's like a creativity and productivity tutor in the electronic music space. Used to be a touring DJ producer himself, and then switched into like this mentoring, tutoring kind of role. And like Mike said something to me which always stuck to me until this day. And he says, when you enter the studio, leave judgment at the door, right?
Mm.
And I just love that because he just always said, like, don't have any preconceived notions of what it is that you're going to do. Don't judge what you're going to do, whether it is the right thing for, you know, this EP, the right thing for this label, whatever. Just go and create. Just go and create. But I think a lot of people struggle with that, including myself. You know, you always thinking like, you know, quite often I start out also with trying to copy something that I like. As you said, you know, you've got to let go of that notion of like, hey, is it really becoming that thing, or are you allowing the track to be what it wants to be, you know, and just going in the direction that's flowing right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the key to your creativity, is that you're leaving judgment at the door, and you just allowing the playfulness to come out and to see where the music takes you, rather than
Yeah.
focusing on something that you need to do.
I mean, it's also a big part. I mean, if there's a label which you always wanted to release on, and they say they have 2 tracks, but they need a third, like who am you? Who are you that you say, yeah, I don't care, do whatever, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
then the pressure is on. You know, you always wanted to be on that label or something. Um, but then I guess you need to think to yourself and say, okay, they can pick the third track from the ones I did, or I can send them some. But if if it's now because of the third track and it's not happening, then it doesn't happen, you know? Like, who gives
Yeah,
a fuck? You know,
yeah, yeah,
then somebody else has the luck of getting your music signed, you know? Like, that's
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
I think at some point you just need to say, who cares how big the label is? You do what you like, and you don't want to change yourself for it or something. Even if the label is big, even if there was great music on it, um, and it's hard to say fuck the label, you know,
That
obviously at
kind of
that
like,
point, you know,
hey,
but
like I do creativity the way I do creativity, and I do music that I do music, and
yeah.
I like don't pander to labels or brands just because they're dangling you know, rewards and exposure in front of you. I think is super, super, super valuable for young artists, you know.
Mm.
Some people go to big brands where they don't even like the music, right? And they will just like try to do anything to be on that label. Like if you're having to make something that fits that label,
Yeah,
cool, you
because
know.
it gives you
But
freedom afterwards to do what you
yeah,
want
yeah,
as
yeah,
well. Of course,
exactly, you
then you
know.
have the respect because you've been on a big label, and then you do whatever the fuck you want afterwards. It's okay as well. There's no right way
Mm.
to do it, I guess, you know. So who are you to blame them for thinking like that? It's
Yeah,
hard
I like
there.
absolutely, you know, and like you know, like you get like, if you get like this sort of exposure basically that allows you to give you the freedom to do what you want afterwards, is cool, you know. But
Yeah.
also, I feel it can stifle creativity when you pander too much to something that might not really be you, but you
Mm,
just want to be part of a brand or whatever, you know. And like, I think as long as you're feeling what you're doing, anything goes, you
mm.
know. I
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about labels, having your own label. You've got your own label, Coltrax, which has done really, really well since you started it. You know, you've had a couple of Beatport #1s with Coltrax, and I know you're also really active on Bandcamp. How
Hmm.
important is it for you having your own outlet and being able to release music whenever you want?
Yeah, at some point in your musical career, you should do it, I guess. But yeah, well, as you said already in the introduction for the question, it's important to be yourself, and you can be the most yourself with your own label, right? You don't have to comply
Yeah.
to anything. Uh, for me, it was a very important factor that I can just do my own artworks, that I can do it whenever I want,
You also create
whenever
the
I feel it.
artwork, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do crazy magic on the releases so far or something, but I liked designing the logo. I mean, I've done the Kolter cam thing, which was the Bandcamp stuff that you've been touching on before. Um, I haven't been as active on Bandcamp lately anymore as I used to. I want to do it again though, because my manager thinks it's more important to have good charting music on Beatport than it is to have good selling music on Bandcamp, I think, and yeah, these are the pros and cons. Then again, um, I think I've been hit up by Hot Creations for a remix, for the Playhouse remix I've done, because Jamie Jones was playing one of my Bandcamp tracks, you know? So it didn't have to go high in the charts or something to be seen by a big guy like Jamie Jones or something, you know? So
Totally. Yeah.
so you can do your own thing, just put it up on Bandcamp, SoundCloud. There are different factors which can get you seen, which can get you heard, most importantly. And if it doesn't happen, then on to the next one. You just do another one and, you know, see how that works or something. I wouldn't, like, if it goes to time investing during the day and everything, I'm pretty much just doing music and almost no business aspects aside from it. Um, the only thing which I mostly do aside from music is doing like artworks or graphics or something, because I love that shit. I love doing little animations or something in the story format. I've been doing that on my job already, for a bigger company, which I didn't like so much anymore, but doing it for myself, I really, really am happy to do this kind of stuff, you know? And whenever I don't feel creative in musically, I think like, okay, I'm gonna do the next gigs announcement graphic, you know, and see if I come up with some funny shit there or something. And you know, when I'm not creative there, I can always just do another thing or something, and it always keeps me happy, and it keeps the fun in the studio, so to say. So then it's a graphic design studio instead of a music studio. But yeah,
I feel you're super creative with your socials, and like I was gonna touch on that later. Like just going back to Bandcamp, it's like yeah, like I totally agree with you that like doesn't like Bandcamp can totally shine a spotlight on you as well. It's not just Beatport.
that
There's
was
some
great.
artists that I really just discovered via Bandcamp. Like one of my favorite artists is Gaskin.
Mm.
And Gaskin, just really blew up via Bandcamp.
Yeah, LP Rhythm
And
too. Yeah,
yeah,
Louis
and
as well. Yeah.
Bandcamp can really, make a career. Like there's many roads that lead to Rome, as they say. In terms of your socials, I feel like you just touched on this a bit, that you just like to create for your socials as well. Like I feel like your socials are really like refreshing and creative, and also they bring across your personality really well. Like do you just approach this spontaneously like you do your music, or is there like a deeper strategic thinking about it?
Hmm. I just I don't know. I don't have to change myself too much doing all these, you know. I of
Mm,
course I would be lying if I tell you that I don't think about social media much and everything, you know. I
right.
mean, obviously it's super fucking important nowadays
It is.
to 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 see what you bring out, to see what you display and everything, you know. But the only thing which I really, really am bothered by is more like the frequency and everything, but not by
Oh,
what,
yeah,
especially.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
do I need to post like every day or something? Do I want to make it? Do I want to be an influencer kind of thing with this or something and show what the
Yeah.
fuck I'm eating? I think nobody gives a shit what I'm eating, you know. So, should I make more in the studio stuff? Then again, I when I sit there and think about this, I'd rather make a new track instead of showing how I made a track, you know.
I love
So
the ones though where you're showing off your new music. I
what do you
think
mean?
like like different
Ah, the
sunglasses for every different
ah,
sunglasses for
okay,
every track. Those kind of posts, I love those. I
yeah.
was like, okay, like when Johannes is bringing out the sunglasses, I know there's some good shit coming in the next
I
couple of
like yours
slides.
too, though. I like yours
Oh
too,
yeah.
with your little self-made chair with the what is it?
Yeah, I have it right
That's
here. It's actually like it's a mouse pad for the armrest for the chair,
yeah,
and I
with like
tell
some
you what,
gel or something, right?
yeah, it is literally a
It
game
must be
changer. It's the
brown
most
already from the sweat.
it must like it's like the pad is just completely worn out. I can't show it to you right now, but it's just broken, just crumbling already. But
Uh,
it's literally the armchair, the armrest mouse pad is literally the most important piece of equipment in the studio. I always say this, like
mm,
it allows me to lean back in my chair and relax while I'm making music. Look, I want to
Perfect.
talk about something that's been going on in your life recently, which I know was a heavy burden on you. We were talking throughout the time when this was happening to you. You recently had to change your name from Joko Cologne to what is now your last name, Kolter. Can
Kolter.
you shed
Yeah.
a can you what is it's also your name. It's just your
Yeah, yeah,
name.
it's
But
my last
Joke
name, my actual last name. Yeah.
look, without like preempting what you are going to say about this, like but like I've always felt this whole controversy was very unfair to you because Joko's obviously short for Johannes, which is also your name. And can you shed a little bit of light of what happened there and why you had to go and change your name?
Well, yeah, the reason I had to change my name is because I had a court order that made me change my name. Now that I have a little bit of distance from the whole thing, like of course you get really emotional when you have to tackle the topic a lot. But now I kind of learned to understand all the sides a little bit more as well, and understand the other DJ's perspective as well, because he obviously has been doing music for a little bit longer than I have. But also, the other side needed to understand that there was absolutely no bad intention of choosing the name, because, as you said, it was evolving from my actual name as well, like Johannes Kolter, like Yoko, which then has made it into Joko. But yeah, I don't know. It's not a positive thing. I don't want to reflect too much light on anymore because it's done, and I just had to change because the court said I was wrong, and so be it. So I changed, and but well, obviously it is a very fucking hard process to change your name after doing 10 years of music, and
Yeah.
to trying to get your name out there. You know, of course, you want to be featured by everyone and everything, and the internet doesn't forget. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so to go and try to ask so many labels in this world to change your name again. Some of them not existing anymore, even
Right.
is a hard thing. So we've came to a conclusion now that is good, I guess, which is a good outcome. Um, and yeah,
Let me express my feelings towards this, and without being negative or shitting on the other side or dragging this out too long, but my feelings about this, and I think that sentiment is shared by many of the fans that follow you, is that we found this whole thing very unfair. I found it a little bit petty as well. Like as you said, I understood some of the misgivings on the other side, but one of the things that I always wanted to highlight is that your body of work is absolutely prolific, right? While the other side's body of work is negligible. And I think what probably played into this was, like he may have been affected by this, but like if somebody just outworks you like on every metric and is so successful in what they do, that's probably triggering, and I think that's a big part that played into that. Um, you know, I think ultimately, if this would have happened to any other person than you, it could have been a career-ending thing, right? Like any other artist, could have been very difficult to recover from having to change your name. But luckily, you're so prolific, right? In terms of your releases, and you're also so loved in the community that the switch to who you are now, which is your last name, Kolter, was probably as smooth as it could be in terms of the outside perception. Obviously, it wasn't smooth for you, and having to change all of these things, going through the legalities of it, dealing with all of the different labels. I'm not saying that it's smooth for you, but from the outside perception of whether people will still follow you, still support you, still love you as an artist, I think that wasn't ever in question. And I remember the day when you announced that very graciously, and you had no negativity towards the other side. You just announced that this is now your name, and you know, you even were gracious enough to say like, hey, I understand the other side, and you know, I want to thank everybody for supporting me. And the outpouring of support that you got, I think, was really telling to the kind of support that you have in the scene, you know.
No, man, I'm
So
really happy about that. So,
yeah.
yeah, as you say, it could go a very, very bad way, but I'm happy that most of the people are really understanding as well. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, and now when I
thanks.
talk to when I talk about you with other people, you know, obviously I don't use, you know, your former artist moniker anymore. I just go like, "Hey, Kolter," and like as soon as I say Kolter, everybody's like, "Yeah, yeah, Kolter," you know, and it's like, you know, the name now has the same popularity. The name has the same gravitas. The name has, you know, the same support behind it as it had before, and
Yeah, I just needed some time. Obviously, this thing doesn't come
yeah,
from one day to the other. It
no,
helped that that I founded my own label, Coltrax, which the name is my last name is also in there, kind of, and that I had a really successful first EP and everything that goes along with it. That helped a lot, obviously. But okay, I would say like after 1.5 years now, slowly the change is kind of done.
it's
Like
done. Yeah, it
because
feels to
the
me.
whole
Yeah.
the whole bad thing about this was because there was still music popping up everywhere. I mean, some labels just blatantly burst out compilations with old tracks from you. So the names would pop up again, and I'm again into trouble because there is
Yeah.
music being released again on compilations, which I had no awareness of. Especially if I would say like my discography is quite big and it's hard to have your eye on every label. I mean, yeah, there were a few who just burst out compilations like nothing, and then again the name pops out. I'm in trouble, and I see this stuff being laid out in court.
With serious implications for you, you know.
Yeah,
So, and I think the court didn't really understand how hard it is to enforce all of this. You know, they think that the electronic music scene is like the major labels. You just go to one or two major labels, they change the name of your catalog, and that's it. But like
nah, they treat
dealing
it more
with
like an actual company selling goods and everything.
yeah,
Yeah, the internet I think is still a hard factor to grasp for them because
yeah,
they don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
how. Yeah, it's hard to find a judge properly as well to really fully understand the whole recent era of music distribution and everything.
Mm.
You know,
And how are you feeling
so
about the whole thing now? Are you now at peace with it?
yeah, I'm at peace with it. I don't think about it anymore
Okay,
because we
that's
came to a
amazing.
conclusion where the other party has to let me know of any infringement going on the internet, and I have a certain time that I can take care of it. You know,
Okay,
if they see
yeah,
something popping up with the wrong name or something on the internet, they write me an email, me and my manager. They say, here is music being distributed with the actual infringed name. Please take care of it. I have to take care of it. We're done.
yeah. Okay,
I have a
I
pre-made
understand.
letter that was signed off by the court. I have to send it to them. Hey, take it down, or legal actions will follow. Blah blah blah. My job is done. I can
Okay.
concentrate on new sounds
Well, I'm
again.
glad. I'm glad this chapter is now behind you, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so happy that you've successfully made that transition into the artist name that you have now, and that continue to be like active as a producer in the scene with all of this music without this thing like hanging over your head. Now let's start talking about something that's recently happened. You have become a father. You got a 2-year-old boy.
Recently, 2 years.
Well,
Yeah.
recently, two
Well, it's
years
kind of
ago.
still
Sorry,
recently. Yeah,
it's been two
yeah,
years. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, you've become a father 2 years ago. Like, how has becoming a dad sort of shaped your view on life, your career? How does having a family impact the touring and having a job that requires you to be away from home for long periods of time? Let me know a little bit about that.
I've never really been away from home super long. The only time was when I was in Japan for a little mini tour, but Apart from that, I always tried to be home as long and as much as I can, and it's it's only gotten to the point where I could when I became a father. So I've never really been a super touring artist or something. And obviously, there's a little bit of coping with the wife now, to see how much is enough, how much is giving us financial stability and everything in the household, and how much is needed for my career or something. I think you don't have to have 20 gigs to be a successful artist or something. Um, well, yeah, I've had some conversations with other DJs about this, and they say like you should do the most you can at some point to take the momentum of you being at a good position right now and everything, and it shows you're being successful and being requested everywhere and everything. And I've kind of told myself, no, you don't. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Like I can have three or
Oh,
four
you know what?
gigs.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because like I just have a feeling that like you're a stubborn character in the best possible way. Like I'm not saying this to put you down, Johannes, but you just like doing things your way. You know what I mean? But I think that's also being one of your biggest strengths is that you don't go down the path that people usually take, and you do things a little bit differently, and that's also what your appeal is as an artist, and that's why people kind of you know um get behind you, and like I love that where you're saying like, look, like work life balance is important to me. I want to spend time with my family. I'm not going to be on the road for 20 shows a month, although you probably could be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I love it that you are prioritizing your family, and that it's not about putting in the most amount of shows possible. Like, do you feel like you found a good balance now? And how do you find the balance, and like how do you make those decisions? Do you make those decisions as a family, or like how do you come about this?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's important to not have FOMO
Yeah.
because I have no FOMO. Like, if I miss a party, I don't give a fuck. Really, it's like,
Why
okay,
don't you have? Why haven't you got FOMO? I want to know. Like, why haven't you got FOMO? Is this something that you
because there's
cultivated,
oh
or you just
because
don't?
I also really fucking enjoy, for example, like if I have a weekend off or something. I mean, apart from spending a lot of time with my family or something, to just go on the fucking couch and play my Steam Deck all night or something. Like,
Okay.
okay, then I've had a good night too. So it's
Can I ask you
I
what games you can you ask you what games you're currently playing, because I'm enjoying my Xbox as well right now.
ah yeah, I think I really enjoy Cyberpunk right now. I've already
I still haven't started this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a rough start, I have to say, because I didn't really enjoy it as much the first few hours, and then I only kind of played it for the sake of being in the plane and being like literally not being able to play anything else. And then I really got into it, and I've already played the whole storyline once now, and now with the second one, I'm now trying to explore everything which is on the left and the right side. It's so cool, man. I love it,
It
and
is a
I've
whole world, that game.
yeah.
I'm currently on Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2.
Oh, is
Absolute
that a
carnage.
role play game?
No,
Or
no, it's a hack and slash third person shooter action
okay,
game. It's
yeah,
kind of like Gears of War, but
okay,
with Space Marines, wading
okay.
through rivers of blood every night. And I find it very relaxing.
It's awesome, bro. Really, I mean, in Cyberpunk, you're also I am there with my fucking shotgun, and I'm just blasting through the fucking
Blowing
head.
people's heads off.
Yeah, really, and then yeah,
I don't understand. I don't really know why it is relaxing, but it actually is very relaxing. Yeah,
yeah. Well,
like
I'm a
like
pacifist. I'm a
yes,
pacifist.
so am
So
I. I'm like so am I. Like I'm really like in real life. Like wouldn't hurt a fly. You know what I mean? but I enjoy violence in video games.
Yeah.
Um, right. I want to talk a little bit like how the industry is changing, how the industry is rapidly changing. We talked a little bit about influencers and the rise of influencer DJs. Now, how do you see this phenomenon? What's your take on this?
It's a positive one, I think, because
Oh, that's a
uh,
take that I
b-
haven't heard before. Why is it positive?
well, because through the rise of influencer DJs or something, it's not like the others DJs are totally being neglected or something. Like it always depends on what kind of event promoters are there or something. Would you want to get booked to an event where they get like the influencer DJs anyway? Like this is not really a party I would like to play then anyway. So I think at the right parties, you're still gonna get booked for the right reasons and everything. So I think it's not like a cake which is there, and they're taking all the cake away from all the other DJs or something.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
the discussion about immigrants. Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
people think
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's less money now because it's all being spent on
They're
immigrants.
taking our
Yeah, there is
jobs.
no
They're
cake.
taking our jobs.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like this. It's not like this. It's just for me.
Yeah.
It's just an enriching thing. You don't have to. I don't really love this thing or something, but I think there's just nothing going away from the love of the scene or something that I had before. So
Well, I think that's a very positive outlook that you have, like because I think like I can be critical of this whole rise of influencers, and I sometimes feel they're less deserving than people who make music and spend many years honing their crafts. But I like your take; it's a positive take, and
yeah, but
your
I
take is
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but your take is a positive take, and it really um is picking up on something that is actually something that's really important to me, and that I always try to remind myself of whenever I do have negative feelings towards people like that, which is that it's not a zero sum game. The pie or the cake, as you said, is big enough for everybody. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Just because someone eats a slice of the cake doesn't mean you're not gonna get your slice. And you always have to keep reminding yourself of that it's like a scarcity mindset, like if you win I lose, is just a very bad mindset to have. And I think your attitude is very much the right attitude to have, and this is something that I need to remind myself of as well, because like I talked
People
about
have
this with
always been pushed. People have always been pushed to a matter of where you think like, does the talent keep up with the amount of push they get? Hmm. Well, there's have been magazine features back when magazines were the thing, where you think like, where you probably think like, okay, does this guy
why is this
deserve to
person on the
be?
cover.
Yeah, well, so
Yeah,
it's always been a little bit like this. It's just
yeah, it's
shifted
always been,
from
yeah.
I don't know to TikTok now, whatever, or Instagram, doesn't
And I
matter.
guess now
So
you probably have more power over it than in the old days, where
exactly,
people just pick a magazine cover, but anybody can become
yeah. So now the power is at your hand,
prolific. Yeah,
right?
anybody can
It's not in your
prolific in
wallet
posting.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I look, that's a really positive take, and this is something that I encourage for the people that are in Dojo as well. This brings us almost to the end. I want to just ask you, what is the latest that's going on in your world? Is there anything that you want to promote or talk about in your releases that are coming up? Like, just fill me in on what's next for you.
So, next one is Hot Creations with
Yes.
She Wants Bass. One of the tracks being requested for some time now, I think, along with two other ones which I really like, called Red Alert and I Can Fix It. And this is coming out this Friday, actually, but it's been last Friday. No, I don't know when, but it's been the 22nd of November. It came out, so people streamed that shit and buy that shit, play it in your set and shit, and play it to grandma and stuff. And along with that, I'm gonna have a little US weekender. I'm not doing really tours. I'm doing weekenders now. Uh, so in Miami and New York, and then also next year in January when I'm in Bali with my family. I am going to
Oh,
play in Austria.
what dates are you there?
I'm going from 28th of December to mid of March, I think, until 7th or something.
You
17th.
know what? I'm gonna be seeing you in Bali, bro.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm gonna be in the region as well. You know, it's my happy place.
Yeah,
So,
no, you've been there a
um,
couple of times already.
yes, yeah, many times, many
Yeah.
times. It's my happy place. So like,
Are
so
you gonna
you
be there
staying
on
in the
New Year's as well? Or
I don't think I'm gonna be there on New Year's. But
Okay,
I'm definitely gonna be there sort of later in January.
okay.
And I'm gonna be playing there for sure. And yeah, I always like
Old
when
man's
I'm touring
probably,
in
right?
Asia. When yeah, like I've played Old Man's many times. And like I don't know if I'm going to be playing Old Man's this time round, but could well be because that's kind of the spot where I'm always at.
Yeah.
Um, but
Where the old man's at.
Bali, where the old man's playing at Old Man's.
Mm.
But yeah, like Bali is really my happy place. And I saw you were out there like last year for a couple of weeks as well, weren't you?
2 months.
Two
Yeah,
months.
2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing
Is this
padel every
always your
day. Love that shit.
is this always your winter break then, like staying out there?
Oh well, maybe it's becoming the winter break now
Yeah.
because yeah, it was my wife's kind of idea to go over there, and usually I'm not the guy who needs vacation, because
Okay.
I could stay at this place all year, just make music and I'm happy. But she said like, okay, let's go. I've been there a couple of times in my life. It's so nice, and I said, yeah, if it makes you happy, let's go. And I was hooked after the
Do you
first.
have a residency out there, or like are
No,
you
no,
just
no.
using it as a base? Okay,
No,
right.
well,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, we're just gonna go for a holiday there, I guess. But every once in a while, I would do a weekend in Australia or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. It's like a 6 hour, 7 hour hop over to Melbourne, isn't
That,
it? Yeah.
yeah, there was the little drop for. Then I'm gonna do a weekend there as well, of course, in Sydney and Melbourne.
Okay,
And
awesome, awesome, awesome.
and what was the other one? Uh, Bright. No, wait, what's it called again? Anyway, I'm gonna drop the little graphic I made for the Australia weekender soon, if I
Nice
haven't
one,
already.
nice one.
So yeah, gonna be over
Well, I'm gonna
there. Yeah,
let's definitely hang in Bali.
yeah.
I'm going to see you there. Thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate you doing this. I know this is going to be a big one for the community. I know there's many fans in the community of yourself. And yeah, can't wait to reveal all the insights that we had on this podcast to everybody. So thank you very much, Johannes.
Thanks, Benny boy, for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, dojo baby.